He looked right into the light of the shotgun so that his face was perfectly lit up, and he smiled.
Oh yeah, he's out of it. A lot of times when I wake up in the middle of the night, I think to myself, did I just hear something? One of the reasons that I can't tell whether or not I heard something properly is that we have noisemakers in the house. We call them noisemakers, at least. It can be anything from a fan to an air purifier to a dehumidifier or anything that will just put you to sleep. So it kind of just drowns out a lot of the white noise that you hear at night. Distant voices that you don't need to worry anything about. Animals that might be barking. You know, it puts a level of noise in the room to where you can just relax and not have your mind focus on little instances. But what happens if the commotion is louder than the noisemakers? Typically, it warrants waking up and go and check it out. Normally, it looks kind of like this. Baby, did you hear that? Grab the gun, go outside, look around a little bit, you know what I mean? And not go all the way outside. Typically, just stick my head out the door with the pistol like, hello? So, nothing ever comes out of this. A long time ago at an apartment that I lived at, we did have an intruder. It turned out not to be anything. This guy was just out of his mind and ended up coming into the house and stuff. But for the most part, you have to be careful with stuff like that. And if it's loud, you should probably investigate. There's certain noises that warrant the kind of attention that you need to pay it, just so you can make sure that nothing's going on. We're going to react to a story today that had a little something that went down at night that they had to check out, and it's at an old farmhouse in the middle of the country, and you'll know how that is. This one's by Wansee Entertainment. Make sure to head on over to their channel and click the subscribe and the notification bell. And if you like reaction videos, make sure to subscribe to this channel as well. Let's get into the reaction. True middle of the night horror story animated.
My family is a small farm here in Kirkwood, upstate New York.
Okay.
We grow a few veggies, keep a few chickens, nothing too spectacular.
Yeah.
But it's home and we love it. But a little while ago, back in early 2019, we got woken up by something in the middle of the night that scared the absolute life out of us.
Okay.
We have this big front yard with flower beds and a big lawn, and that's where we keep the chickens and the dog, too. So me, my mom, and my dad were all sleeping one night, and we're woken up by this huge crash in the front yard. I can hear our dog barking really, really loud and violently before there's like this yelping sound from it, and he goes quiet.
Oh, no. Okay, so most of us that own dogs before can tell the difference between a dog being angry and a dog just barking at something, you know. Maybe it's a little raccoon passing somewhere or whatever. Or maybe he sees something that he actually sees as a threat, or he or she, and starts barking very, very viciously, like angry. You can usually tell the difference. Plus, if I hear my dog whimper after that type of thing, like something hit him or something injured him, oh no, we going out, guns blazing, baby.
I walk out into the hallway and see my dad storming out of my parents' bedroom,
He's got
rushing
the
down the stairs
shotgun
to get a shotgun.
Yeah, daddy.
Me and my mom were about to follow him outside to get a look at whatever was going on, but he yells at us to call the cops, stay inside, and not follow him under any circumstances.
Wow.
My dad grabs the phone and I rush back into my bedroom to watch from the window. As soon as I look out, I see this car that smashed through the fence of our yard.
What? My God. Go in the yard. No road, no nothing. Just driving through the dadgum field? Through the fence? What in the world? All right. Drugs? That's the first thing I'm thinking. He's either high out of his mind on some sort of substance, he or she, or I don't know what the or is. He has to be on drugs.
And torn up a section of our lawn. It's obviously really dark out, and the car's headlights are only lighting up a section of our yard, so I can't really see much outside of the beams. But I do see something that absolutely breaks my heart.
Oh, no.
It's our dog, lying on the front lawn, not moving at all.
Oh, my God.
He looked really hurt. Something had really, really messed him up.
God dang.
But given that he was barking after the actual smash of the car, it couldn't have been the impact that hurt him so bad.
Okay.
Something else entirely. What I saw next was only because my dad had this little light attached to the end of his shotgun.
That is
he
a
starts
G.
shining it around the front yard as I hear my mom calling 911 in the hallway, telling them that something horrible had happened at our address.
That's some
and for
SWAT
them to come
level.
as quickly as they could. Then my dad shines the shotgun light over towards the chicken coop, and I saw something that I continued to see in my nightmares for a long time to come.
Uh-oh.
It was a man, completely naked from head to toe,
Yep, drugs.
kneeling among torn-out feathers and broken bodies, and he was sinking his teeth into the flesh of a still-living chicken that he held tight in his grip.
He's eating raw chicken?
Every time he bit into the chicken, it would flap and shake, making the most awful screeching noises as he tore more raw flesh from its body.
Oh my God.
My dad racked a shell into the chamber and started screaming at the guy to get out of the chicken coop. But the guy barely listens at first, just carries on ripping this big brown chicken apart with his bare hands and teeth.
Okay. This has to be the most disturbing thing that you could ever see in your life, right? I mean, granted, first of all, he's naked. I don't know if I could fight somebody naked, y'all. I'd suppose I'd have to try to figure it out, but he is clearly off his rocker. Is he hungry? Is he starving? Is he possessed? What is going on?
And by the time he does actually start listening to my dad, God, it was horrible. He looked right into the light of the shotgun so that his face was perfectly lit up, and he smiled.
Oh yeah, he's out of it.
There was blood and feathers all over his face and chin. He looked monstrous, totally insane, eyes bulging out of their sockets. I think even to this day, it's probably the most terrifying thing I'd ever seen.
But he drove.
I started banging on the window and begging my dad to come back inside. I was so scared the guy was going to attack him or something, and if he did, that Dad would shoot him.
Yeah.
And I know it's maybe a little lame of me, but I just didn't want to see any of that. I was already distraught from seeing our dog just lying there all lifeless on the lawn.
No.
And I know I wouldn't be able to handle it if anything had happened to my dad.
Poor baby's traumatized.
Luckily, the guy didn't bother doing anything to my dad at first. I think he was just so blinded by the light of the shotgun that he just sort of stared into the flashlight.
I gotta tell you, man, you know, a situation like this, you see what's going on. If the guy would pose a threat outside of something that the cops wouldn't be able to handle because they aren't there yet, you got a shotgun pointed at him. You can take care of the problem immediately. Now, the question is, do you want to? Let me tell you something. Coming from a personal experience and having to hold someone at gunpoint before, it's a heck of a lot of responsibility. It really is. You have someone's life in your hands, basically, and you have to decide whether or not the threat is high enough to take that person's life. It's a huge decision, and it comes with a lot of I don't really know how to explain it. There's not a whole lot of decision making that actually happens. You know, you don't have all these scenarios, you know, thought out before it actually happens. You're just trying to process what, I guess, what I was trying to do when I had to do this is I was trying to process, does this guy have the chance to get to me and harm me? That was my whole line of thinking until the police got there in my particular situation. If at any time they charge you and you think that you have to stop them, that's when you have to pull the trigger. The difference with holding someone at a gunpoint with a pistol versus a shotgun is that if you shoot them with a pistol, they're probably going to live unless you shoot them in the head or the heart. You know, at least they have a chance of living. If you shoot somebody with a shotgun up close, there's no coming back from that. There's no coming back. If you don't bleed out, you're going to be completely disfigured. Man, big decision, man.
Hypnotized by it for a few seconds, but he soon rose up off of his knees, that bloody, twitching chicken still in his grip.
Oh my God.
And started to make a move towards my dad. As soon as he did, the sound of Dad's shotgun rang out as he fired a shot above the guy's head.
The guy still coming?
The guy hardly flinched. That's when I realized he must have been on some kind of drug or something.
Yeah.
Maybe meth or PCP or whatever.
Had to be, man.
He didn't seem scared at all by the fact that he'd almost had his head blown off, but it was definitely enough to put him off from straight up attacking my dad.
Thank goodness.
He just carried on smiling, though, kneeling
And
back
eating
down
the
among the chickens as he carried on ripping them apart. It felt like an hour before I finally saw the red and blue flashing lights of the cop cars coming down the road. But from what I learned later, it was only a couple of minutes before they actually arrived.
Yep.
Since they happened to have a unit in the area already
just
down
seems like
highway
forever.
patrol. When they arrested the guy, he got really, really crazy, and they had to actually use their tasers, which had little effect at first, and pepper spray on the guy just to get him on the ground.
He must have been drugged out his
We later
mind.
found out that the guy, named John Many, was actually from Florida, that there had been a manhunt for him, and he'd somehow gotten all the way up to New York State using stolen cars and hiding himself away in trucks. We weren't the only place he'd attacked either, since he actually killed another dog on a different farm, maybe less than 2 miles away from us. That was definitely the most terrifying thing I'd ever woken up to in the middle of the night.
What happened to
by
you,
a
though?
long shot, too. Thankfully,
Thank goodness.
our dog survived.
Thank goodness, y'all. I was kind of worried about the dog. This was a disturbing story, man. We called it from the beginning. It was drugs, you know. I mean, either if you off your medication and you need to be, or you under the influence of something like he mentioned, you know. I happen to know from experience that people that are sleep deprived are pretty much insane. You know, if you're on drugs and you're so sleep deprived, if you haven't slept in days because of speed, yo, you absolutely out of your mind. It could have been multiple things. And PCP, you know, if you ever watched the movie Friday, Smokey was in the chicken coop. He was cooing. He was cooing with the chickens because of PCP. This stuff is some crazy, crazy stuff, man. Crazy hallucinogen. Oh my God. Well, at least nobody got hurt. And the guy had enough control to know not to shoot the individual, to actually shoot in the air, to just stop the threat, you know. And I'm glad because, well, granted, the guy was a criminal, you know, and he was gonna, the guy didn't want to be the executioner, you know, even if he ends up, you know, going to jail and doing time, or even going on death row for some of the crimes that he may have committed. The fact of the matter is the guy didn't have to make that decision. And I'm gonna tell you, it's much easier in the aftermath to say, I'm glad I didn't have to kill nobody. Because if you had to kill him, even if it was justified, it's still gonna sit in your mind, man. Still gonna sit in your mind, man. Good story though. Wansee Entertainment, guys. Make sure to go over to their channel and subscribe, and a couple other videos that I reacted to from Wansee here. Thanks so much for watching. As always, this is Zueljin signing off, and we'll see you next time. Break it down.